Welcome, guys, to the Out of Office podcast, where we talk to industry leading experts in the space of online businesses. So, if you're curious to get started or if you want to scale up your business, this is the one stop solution for that. We at Out of Office podcast, which is powered by SyncUp, are building the world's largest free community for digital businesses and digital business owners. And you can access this community by clicking on the first link in the description. Hope you enjoy this podcast. Welcome, guys. This is Ritwik, the host of the Out of Office podcast powered by SyncUp. And I'm today joined by Vidhu, who's like a complete gangster in this whole space of D2C. So, Vidhu, welcome. And I would love for you to give an introduction to the people about you.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me. So, quick introduction summarizing 26 years of my life in 2 minutes, right? I grew up in Kuwait, right? As a kid, I was always super motivated and super driven, right? I just had this feeling deep down like, dude, I could do like really cool stuff. And I just felt I was born for greater things, right? Grew up before going to college. I had this really bad breakup, had a stint with depression, and it made me feel like really upset. I used to feel like I was nothing. Like I used to be in my own words, be like, fuck, this is rock bottom, right? I felt really lost, dude. I was in university, I was studying accountancy, which I hated. Like, I went to class for 2 days and I was like, what am I doing here? Everybody is like, bro, I'm going to work in PwC, KPMG, throwing on his big names. It just did not excite me at all, right? Dude, I had this moment one day where I was like, hey, you know what? If I felt like I was nothing, I realized then I can be anything, right? It's a small mindset shift, but I was like, hey, let me do some stuff. I started then this habit which has changed my life completely, which has got super deep into content consumption. Like following people like Tom Billieu, Alex Hormozy, and all these guys, right? Just started learning a lot of stuff, dude, and I built this identity of the learner. So honestly, where I thought was that like this is let's say who I am today, and this is who I want to be. The gap of that is just knowledge, and I just spend a lot of time learning, right? And like it's something which I do every day, even now for like 1 hour minimum, right? Got onto this journey of becoming an avid learner, dude, and let's say long story short now since I was 23, which is 3 years ago, since then I've started two agencies. So Scroll Stop, which where I'm the co-founder of right now, we have scaled to around 15 people overall. We're in the UGC ad space, and apart from that I've also built digital products and online courses, and I think overall all these businesses combined we've done over 10 crore revenue so far.
Wow.
So that's the story
crazy.
in a quick nutshell. Yeah.
That's crazy. So I see how secretly you have tried to avoid the question of a fun fact about you. So I want to know your
Go
fun
for
fact.
it. Fun fact
What
about
is
me,
it?
dude. So, like I said, I was always super driven and ambitious. Like when I was a kid, right? So, when I was younger, I used to drive towards sports. So, dude, my fun fact is I was a national level table tennis player. So, I
That's
played
great.
nationals in India and even in the UK where I did my undergrad. So, I
That's
used that
crazy.
ambition that time for sports. Now it's business. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's great,
Right.
man. That's great. I don't know how many people know about this whole story and this whole sort of summary of
Mm-hmm.
what has happened in the past 26 of your life years of your life, right? On LinkedIn, I know you're very active on LinkedIn. People who
Right.
are curious, they can go and check it out, check your profile out. But like two things that took out from that conversation, right? Like number one is you said that you went through like a bad breakup. You
Mm-hmm.
sort of hit rock bottom. um, a lot of people, I wouldn't say breakups in general, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, right? I've seen that, often, especially on LinkedIn or in our network, a lot of people also get into this whole space of like the agency or freelancing,
Right.
probably because they don't have any capital, to get
Yeah.
started with. They don't want to do their jobs. They probably hate their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your way of getting out of that situation? That's my first question. Like, what were the mindset shifts you had? What were the things that you practiced? Or was it like, no, I'm just focused on my goal? So what was your whole
Mm-hmm.
journey like from there and coming back
Right.
again?
Dude, so I'll tell you, let's say in terms of my story of how I got into the agency space, right? So, like when I was in university and stuff as well, like I had this module where we had to come up with a business idea and pitch it and stuff like that. Obviously, it was just a module, right? But I loved it, dude. I got super invested. I'm like, shit, this is really interesting. I just felt this like passion and fire. Since then, I always knew I want to start a business, but I was like, oh, I don't know shit about business. Like I used to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. I tell everybody, bro, I'm going to start a business. They'd be like, oh, what business? I'd be like, I'm thinking about it,
Yeah.
right? Basically nothing. So that time again, like I said, I was doing so much content consumption. I realized one thing is marketing and sales is crux of any business, any vertical. Leave agency, right? Even SaaS, anything, you still need to know marketing and sales. I've always liked people, found it very interesting. So I'm like, hey, cool, let me get into that. So I
Yeah.
worked in a big marketing agency called Virality in Bangalore. So that's where I got my start. So I worked there for a year, learned a lot of how the agency game works and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, you know what? The thought was always running in the back of my head. Hey, dude, you can do big things. You want to start
Yeah.
your own business, do it, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I decided to take the leap of faith. Dude. Honestly, for me, it was just that I worked in an agency, got a bit of exposure of how it really operates, and I was really fortunate that I was in the agency at a good time where we scaled from like literally working in the second floor of a house in Bangalore where we had around 10 of us to like a big
Yeah.
team of like 20, 30. It happened in front of my own eyes and seeing like,
Yeah.
us working with a random gym in Bangalore to working with like Cred, OnePlus and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I was there in that journey. So obviously the growth excited me. And I was like, hey, you know
Yeah.
what? I want to do this on my own, right? So
Hmm.
that's just how I started my own agency, dude.
Got it, got it. And like one more thing you mentioned is, which is very interesting. You said that you started consuming a lot of content, right?
Yeah,
Now, we come from this whole Indian Asian background where people say that, keep your phone away, throw away your
for sure.
phone,
Yeah, yeah.
your laptops. So, I know people will take away some things from this conversation and they'll apply it in the completely wrong way, right?
For
They'll
sure.
actually not end up doing anything. So, what would
Right.
you say is that conscious practice look like of consuming the right kind of content, and how would you say you should, try and implement it in your life then?
Right. Dude, so I think, so even the word I like to use here is conscious consumption when it comes
Hmm.
to content. I'll give you an example, which is if you're scrolling on Reels also and you're watching people dance, you're
Hmm.
also consuming something, right? Now, is
Yes.
that, if it's entertainment, dude, it's absolutely fine. Like, but you should be more intentional about it, right?
Hmm.
So I'll give you like an example for me, which is I built this habit over time. Like, I'm super into podcasts myself, right?
Hmm.
Like, I listen to a ton of podcasts, save episodes, YouTube
Hmm.
Premium for sure. It's always like running. So
Hmm.
I'm a bit crazy, dude. I even listen to podcasts when I'm in the shower. I have my
Yeah.
AirPods on and listen to it. When I have to like wash my hair is when I take it off and I do it. I'm not even
Hmm.
kidding. Maybe
Yeah.
second fun fact, right?
Yeah.
So I think in terms of people, dude, this is what I would say, right? Which is,
Hmm.
dude, we are honestly are the luckiest generation in the world, right? Because
Yes.
dude, we have so much information available to us online, right?
Hmm.
Like even today with where AI is going, right? Dude, it's one click, one search, you literally can get an answer to your question. So that's the power of knowledge. And in school, we've already had the cliche, knowledge is power, right? But now
Hmm.
the thing is, it's up to us. Where do we want to intentionalize that knowledge? So, for
Hmm.
example, even if let's say you run Facebook ads, right?
Yeah.
There are 100 webinars, people talking on LinkedIn, Twitter, and giving you real strategies that are working. If you
Hmm.
can spend your time more consciously consuming that content, right? And there's a
Yeah.
philosophy which I really believe in, which is ideas in is equal to ideas out, right?
Hmm.
You feed good stuff into your brain, you will get good stuff out of your brain.
Yeah.
It works parallelly as well. You said if you feed shit to your brain, you know what's going to come out of it, right? So
Yeah.
if you watch a lot of reality TV shows where there's all this drama and all this stuff, no shit, you look at the world in a very negative way and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Same way, which is you can use that for good stuff also. Feed in
Hmm.
good ideas, feed in a lot of stuff. You work in D2C, dude. See
Yeah.
what a lot of brands in the US are doing. Just see their ads and all that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
when it's your turn to do something, now you'll realize I have so many good ideas. It's because you
Hmm.
maybe consumed 100 ideas and amalgamation of order that what comes in, right? So
Yeah.
honestly, dude, it's just again, what do you really want to get good at, right? Just go crazy into consumption on that, dude. Learn almost everything there is available online, and you'll notice by default you just end up being an expert on it.
Hmm.
It's because you have
True.
so much information about it.
The interesting thing is, like, as you were saying this, I was thinking about, as you were talking earlier, right? Like, you also want to get into like content now,
Yeah,
and I think that's obviously a byproduct of consuming some sort of information
it
that
is
you also want to
absolutely,
get it
dude.
out.
Yeah,
So the other thing is that I also feel that a lot of people today, in today's day and age, like, if you're just consuming the right kind of content, you are more or less on the right path. Like
you
20,
are
30 years back,
absolutely
you would have to just, it was the time was different. You just had to work really hard in one thing, and then you
right.
would probably get success. But now, if you consume the right kind of content, you will just naturally gravitate towards,
Exactly.
that field, that area of interest, right? I think that's one thing which is there. So
Right.
talking more about your agency, right? Like, obviously,
Mhm.
you were always interested into business, and obviously you consume a lot of content. But your agency is, I would say, one of the more unique agencies, right? Where you,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, like, you help brands with creating content, right, and create high converting ads. So what
Yes.
does that? So can you tell us a little bit about your
Absolutely,
agency
dude.
and what you do exactly?
Absolutely right. So I'll give you a bit of context before I explain about how we got to Scroll Stop today, right?
Okay.
So my first in when I was 23, like 3 years ago, I started an agency called Underdog Media. So we were into performance marketing, right? Fundamentally, what we did was we ran Facebook ads for brands, right? We were like the media buyer, checking the dashboard data and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, dude, in my journey, then we worked with a couple of clients abroad. So I worked with agencies to do that stuff. What I was so surprised was that, dude, in the conversation in India, everybody is like talking about data, bro. The add to cart dropped by 2%. Oh my god, like that's what we fixated on. I'm not saying it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
But we were all data people, and I feel in the US, everybody just spoke about creative content.
Great.
Oh, what's a new concept we should test out? And I was like, dude, it's like night and day. I blame
Yeah.
the fact that everybody's an engineer in India. That's why we're so data driven,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so then I realized that like it's not just them thinking about creative. That actually worked. Like I saw when they did that on multiple clients, they were getting improvement in sales and all that stuff. And I was like, shit. So if you look at the 80-20 principle, 80% was actually driven by really good content. Then is the small, like, for example, how many times you say a new interest is working well on Facebook ads? For a day, maybe, but tomorrow's going to die, right? But back 10 years ago, for sure, it was the case, right? But it's very content led today. So I saw this and I was reflecting in India. I'm just like, dude, what are we doing over here, right? That was pretty much the pinnacle. And even me personally, like, I was super interested always in copywriting. So what I was very interested in always understanding is that, like, when I got into advertising, I was first not like, chal, I'm going to take a Facebook ads course. I was like, let's start from the foundation. I want to study David Ogilvy, Gary Halbert, all these guys, because they were OG copywriters. Just think of it this way. They had to write text to convince you to buy something. Today, I'm pretty sure 90% of marketers can't remotely do anything than that. Today, we have videos, images, all this stuff which is so stimulating visually. That is makes it easier to sell. But dude, they just had to focus on psychology. So I learned a lot about them from that end, right? So I was always into copywriting, plus the media buying side I've seen in terms of what works for customer acquisition. So dude, Scrollstop honestly just made the most sense, because I was like, hey, you know what? I see this being a huge gap in the market where nobody's selling content to brands, right? In terms of just running for it as ads, like what we like to call as performance creative. So, dude, that's how we started Scrollstop. It's been almost a year and a half since we started, right? And yeah, dude, exactly like you said. So we work with a lot of big e-commerce brands, and we are purely their creative vendor. So our entire team does this strategy. We research a lot on TikTok, find good concepts to do, create some crazy hooks for them in these ads also, and the brand runs it, and the sales improve. So you know that's what we do today. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it makes sense. For people, like a lot of people who watch my content, even on the other channel, right? They are interested in like drop shipping, and they always come to me. They are like, "Hey, Ritwik, we want to do drop shipping. What should we do? What should we do?" And they're always fixated on finding a good product, right? And I always tell them, and it's been the same thing with like proper D2C brands as well. It's not so much about the product. It's become so visual today, right? Like you can't actually find an edge in your product, right? But what you can find an edge in is probably your marketing angle, right?
Absolutely,
Like how you mentioned your hooks, your creatives. That's where you actually find your edge, right? So even if you're like a drop shipper, even like whatever I know from like US drop shipping people who do it in like a very huge way, what they're doing is they're doubling down on those creative sites, right?
100%.
Because ad sets, obviously, like with Facebook ads, the number of interests are reducing every single day, right? It's going to probably be non-existent like 5 years down the line. But what will stand will still be the creatives, right? And people trying to resonate with particular hooks, particular angles in the messages. And I think that's how it's going to be, right?
Absolutely, dude. Dude, I would even go on to say, dude, if you're planning to do drop shipping, right? If you don't have a good ad for the product, don't even launch the brand.
Yes.
Like you said, products doesn't mean anything. Like you have to find really good marketing angles and concepts that you can advertise. If you don't have it, don't launch it, dude. It's honestly as simple as that.
It's like rather than finding a good product, like just focus on finding like a crazy marketing angle.
A marketable product. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Honestly, it's good. Yeah.
What is your like? So now you're working with so many different brands nowadays, right? Like, what is your process across different industries? Like, how do you go about your creative strategy? Like, is it that okay? You take references from probably US, UK. Do you come up with unique ideas? Do you go into like the customer psychology? Do you go on Quora? Do you go on Amazon? So, like anybody who's watching this today who wants to get into drop shipping or is a D2C brand owner or somebody who wants to get into creatives as an agency, what would you say is like a good path for them to be successful?
Perfect. So, dude, I'll give you like an insight to how my brain works, right? So, I really like to get into the deep foundation and fundamentals of things. So, I think a lot of us are maybe marketers. We work in this thing, right? But how many of you have Googled what is an ad? Not much. So I start from there first, which is what is an ad? An ad is a specific message to a target audience. You just take those two keywords, right? A specific message, right? And then to a target audience. So our entire process is literally built on the back of this. So first step, what we do is we have a call with the brand, understand more about them, why did they launch it, their positioning in the market, so on. But we go deep into the target audience, right? One product can have multiple people who use it. And they all have different use cases, different problems. So we go deep into this. So how we do this is basically one step is our team does a lot of research on Amazon reviews. So like we actually download reviews on an Excel sheet. We upload that to GPT even, right? So we do a lot of sentiment analysis to understand like, hey, categorize customers based on different pain points. Why did they buy this particular product, right? Understand that. So first we create who are the target audiences we're speaking to. That's step one,
Okay.
specific target audience. Then is specific message. This is due to the value proposition, which is
Yeah.
like what is the perceived benefit that this TG will get using a
Hmm.
particular product, right?
Hmm.
Will it make you confident? Will it make you happier? Whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? So we reverse engineer and we come up with multiple ideas on those. So even
Hmm.
let's say UGC, while it's just user generated content, right? What we
Yeah.
focus more on is message market fit. You
Hmm.
have your market, which is the target audience. What are the
Hmm.
multiple messages that we can do for this particular target audience, right? So for
Okay.
example, which is, let's say, I think a product which a lot of people have seen, which we've done, is the Frido's pillows, right?
Hmm.
So Frido has an
Yes.
ergonomic pillow, which they do a lot of ads. A lot of people have tend to seen it. See, if
Hmm.
you look at it at core, right, a pillow is just a pillow. You just sleep on it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. But that's
Yeah.
not, honestly, it's not sexy. We
Hmm.
made it sexy. Like we did. So for example, recently an ad we did that went really viral was we burned another pillow on the hook and said, you
Hmm.
need to burn your pillow right now. You need to use this product now.
Yeah.
Dude, we came up with a really strong visual hook, which got a
Hmm.
lot of attention. People were like, why are
Yeah.
they burning the pillow? In a sea
Yeah.
of content today, it stood out, right? Then the
Hmm.
sales message, we tailored it. Like we made one more about neck pain, one about back pain. The reason you sleep at night, you don't have good sleep, you feel tired when you wake up in the morning is because of this,
Yeah.
right? So like that,
Yeah.
we come up with a huge specific messages and we
Hmm.
test that out. So we create the content and all for them, like with the variation. So let's do a strong hook, a specific
Yeah.
message, launch it to the TG. We always see the data if the ads worked well, and then we reiterate on the back of that.
Got
So
it.
overall in
Yeah,
our process,
that
dude,
sounds
that's
really
how we take
interesting.
things up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting, man. So, like you mentioned, something that went really viral. So, I think one more
Yeah.
thing that people don't understand is that, especially D2C founders and even a lot of agencies, right? They're confused about this whole fact that, okay, am I running an ad? No, you're literally
Yeah.
running a video, and that video has a potential of people sharing it with other people, right?
100%.
I think a lot of
100%.
people undermine that. So, what would you say,
It is, yes.
something like that, from your testing, from your data, when you try and get into like these kind of content strategies, what kind
Yeah.
of difference does it make from a data perspective? You would think, and you would like to share with people.
Dude, so I'll tell you like a clear pattern we've observed over multiple brands, multiple industries, right? Is one thing is
Yeah.
you have to have a good hook. Say for people
Hmm.
who are not familiar, a hook is the first 3 seconds of the ad, right?
Okay.
Now in the hook also, the visual is the most important part. If you have a
Hmm.
boring visual of, let's say, just somebody talking to the camera straight like that, not as like engaging, not as sexy, people will skip, right? Think of it
Yeah.
this way, which is when somebody's scrolling on reels right now, they
Hmm.
don't want to see your ad. As soon as this is sponsored, it's
Hmm.
immediately skip. You have to
Yeah.
do something to what we call pattern interrupt. That's step one, right?
Hmm.
So any brand else that's out there, you have to. So the way that we create an ad now, we come up with the hook first.
Hmm.
Because if we don't have a good hook, it's not even worth running the rest of the ad. Think of it this way,
Hmm.
dude. You could have Shah Rukh Khan in the 5th second, but
Yeah.
most people don't even go past 3 seconds. And
Hmm.
if you study the data, you can track a metric called scroll stop. Many
Hmm.
brands have less than 20%. That
Hmm.
basically means less than 2 out of 10 people are actually watching past 3 seconds. So if
Hmm.
you had Shah Rukh Khan pop up in the 4th second, that means 80% didn't even see it.
Hmm.
First step is you got to fix the hook, right? And the second thing is,
Yeah.
even if you look at one thing that we do a lot is, let's say we come up with a target audience, we try to understand what is the content that they consume generally, right?
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is like, let's say if you look at the tech space, right? Now in the
Hmm.
tech space, there are a lot of famous YouTubers like MK, BHD, and all these guys. They have a
Yeah.
particular style. Over there, high production content makes sense. So
Hmm.
we try to understand based on the TG that we have now, what was
Hmm.
a rough kind of content they would follow. Like a tip that
Hmm.
I've heard some people do, which is they create a new Instagram account, they go like a lot of pages which are relevant to the TG, and then they scroll reels
Yeah.
just to see what content
Hmm.
the TG is consuming. Super interesting. But the idea is
Yeah.
when you see the content they're already consuming now, you'll get a better way to take
Hmm.
that and make it into an ad. Like honestly, the way
Hmm.
I look at ads, it's paid social. It is an ad, but it
Yeah.
has to be still very understanding the platform, right? Having a
Yeah.
good hook is definitely one. Second thing is when it
Hmm.
comes to the body, right? Like I said, people want to skip. We've seen ads that are very direct to the point work really well. So when you
Yeah.
try a bit of a storytelling, bit of skit to set some context, we've just seen
Yeah.
it didn't work really well. But we've seen a pattern which is get to the point, the classic
Yeah.
formulas, problem, agitation, solution. Honestly, it works well. Even though it's very used
Yeah.
and abused, it does work
Yeah.
well, right? So, but I
Yeah.
think another thing also to add on to that, which I think what a lot of brands don't do is they don't test a specific message. So one
Hmm.
ad will blurt out the entire value props. You can do this, this,
Yeah.
this, and this. The problem then is
Yeah.
you don't know exactly what worked well. And
Hmm.
understanding that is actually what makes a big difference,
Yeah, I think
right?
what you mentioned is so true. Like, I think people, they're I've often seen, a lot of agencies, a lot of D2C founders, they are
Right.
not observant. Okay, I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. Okay, you're watching TV or you're scrolling through your phone, or you're going through YouTube. There's
Right.
this whole craze of, say, Apple in India, right? I'm
Yeah.
very sure most D2C founders, they are Apple owners. As soon as they hit their first 10, 15 lakhs, they go and buy an
For sure.
iPhone.
Yeah.
But if they go and check out, like, probably anybody can do this activity today, right? I did this with my brother recently.
Right.
Uh, you go to YouTube, you search Apple, you go to Apple's YouTube page. They have all the YouTube videos that they've uploaded, they're basically ads, okay? And
Right.
what you mentioned right now, that pick and run with one message in that video.
Yeah.
Apple does this beautifully well. They will have a whole
Absolutely.
2 minute video on just one element.
One
It
concept.
might be a
Exactly, dude.
camera,
Yeah.
it might be the storage, it might be privacy, but yes, it'll all
Right.
be different. They'll never, stack on,
Exactly.
the different
Yeah. Yeah.
elements, right? So I think just being observant that, okay, if Apple is doing it, I better do it, right? For my
Yeah, yeah,
brand.
dude, for sure.
I think
It's
that's one
like
thing.
you said, dude. See, privacy, right? There could be a lot. Like, I'll give you like an example. Let's say maybe like we're into production. So now, if iPhone comes out and they sell the camera specs, interested, right? But
Yeah.
let's say, for example, we work in marketing, so we know privacy is a lie, right? But
Mm.
for example, when they talk about privacy, there is a
Yeah.
huge TG that appeals to. They go like, "Oh, I want my stuff to be safe." Like, so
Yeah.
I live in Bangalore. When you go to the airport, you see massive billboards. They're all about Apple's privacy. See, the thing
Yes.
is, right? It's a specific TG that they have in mind. It is
Yeah.
obviously fairly broad, but a specific value prop and sales pitch to get their
Yeah.
attention, right? Dude, if Apple
Absolutely.
can do it, obviously your D2C brand can absolutely do it as well, right? So yeah.
True, true. Like, again, just like taking, another step further in that concept. So they
Mhm.
know that, okay, Bangalore is like the startup hub, and they know that a lot
Right,
of techie people are there, right? And they
right.
know that, okay, they are probably running some software company, or they know a little bit about data and privacy. So
Absolutely.
obviously, subliminally, it is just infusing that, okay, hey, we will take care of your data or your privacy,
Exactly.
whatever. So I think
Right?
that's one thing that people can learn from these big brands if they're just
For
observant enough.
sure.
One more person you mentioned is Shah Rukh Khan. So I'm not
Right.
going to talk about Shah Rukh Khan, but I
Right.
want to get to influencers, right? So a
Uh-huh.
lot of people are also confused between what you guys do. I'm sure you get this a lot.
For
That
sure,
people think
yeah.
that you're an influencer marketing agency, which is
Right.
clearly not the case. So how would you say what you guys do is completely different from influencer marketing?
Absolutely. So let's start with like what is influencer marketing, right?
Hmm.
Influencer marketing is basically you might have a guy or a girl with a certain amount of, let's say, 10K followers, right?
Hmm.
So basically they have an audience.
Hmm.
And the only reason a brand should invest with them is that if they feel this audience is relevant to the customer base that they want. So
Hmm.
typically, let's say, they'll give them the product, maybe ask for a shout out, a story, a feed, post, a reel, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
The idea there is that they're posting it to their particular audience that they already have, and they're leveraging that audience to hopefully get some sales, right?
Hmm.
What we do in UGC is, here's the thing, which is the most like effective marketing channel is word of mouth, right?
Hmm.
Like no matter what happens, right, you can say 100 ads online. If your, let's say, mom, brother, some friend comes to and say, hey, you should use this, you trust them, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, UGC kind of comes from that, which is basically like, rather than having the brand come and say we are this, right? Nobody likes a salesperson. Instead, when you
Yeah.
have a real customer talk about real problems that they face, real stories, it's a bit more relatable, right?
Hmm.
So in, let's say, the honestly the behavior is a lot more prevalent in the US, where in
Yeah.
TikTok, right, it's honestly very weird, but it happens is that girls just pick up the camera and talk, hey, today I
Hmm.
used this biotin gummy and it was so good, right? That's
Yeah.
the dream. The reality is it doesn't happen too much in India, right?
Hmm.
So in India, what we've done now, because we know that kind of content is very effective in an ad sense. So
Yeah.
what we do is almost called AGC, is actor generated content, which is
Okay.
we work with actors and actresses in Bangalore, bring them over to our studio, and we do an entire shoot with them. But the
Okay.
idea here is, right, we research so much about the audience, so we craft their story and narrative through the content that we create, right?
Hmm.
So
Okay.
to go to your question also, which is the influencer and UGC, a big difference. Influencer typically is top of funnel. It's more for
Hmm.
awareness, right? Like we've seen a lot of brands do influencer marketing. It's mainly to get
Hmm.
impressions and eyeballs. They're not very quantified looking for sales.
Hmm.
UGC is only sales. Like
Hmm.
every ad that we create, even we tell this to brands, which is, I don't want you to tell me the video looks cool. I know it looks cool. Tell me
Yeah.
how much ROAS we got. Tell me how much sales we got, right? So when they say, hey, this ad is pulled in over a crore sales,
Yeah.
I'm excited, right?
Yeah.
So that's how UGC and influencers are different. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think that's great that you highlighted that, because a lot of people, they're still confused between UGC and what does influencer marketing mean. There's a words difference, and
Right.
UGC or AGC, I think you mentioned, right?
Yep.
that done right is going to be far more powerful than doing any 10 million
Absolutely.
follower influencer, right? Because
Right.
you're putting it on steroids on the back end with
Right.
paid ads, then obviously, right?
Exactly.
So that's there. So now with like in 2024, right? Like I remember, I think it was 2022, and I think around December is when Chat GPT launched, and since
Yeah.
then I would say it's definitely changed. The way we do paid ads, like copywriting, and
100%.
everything
Yeah.
we do, the like even the tools we use, right? So for
Right.
you as a creative agency, how have things changed, and what kind of tools are you using to
Hmm.
manage your business today in terms of creatives?
Absolutely, dude. So I think, like you rightly said, AI is a game changer, right? So even in our agency right now, dude, like our entire strategy team, AI is a huge part of our internal process right now. Like I gave you
Mhm.
like one example earlier, which is that,
Yeah.
see, earlier the process we would do, like to give an example of customer reviews is, we'll go to
Mhm.
Amazon, check the customer reviews, we'll write key phrases. The
Mhm.
cool part now is I can just download an extension, like there's an extension called Helium 10.
Uh-huh.
Download an extension, it'll give me all the reviews in a Google Sheet.
Hmm.
Today I can just upload that to GPT and be like, hey GPT, these are the
Hmm.
reviews from a customer for my particular product. Give me
Hmm.
the common pain points, problems, and all that stuff. So,
Hmm.
dude, like the thing is, it can crunch so much data extremely fast as well,
Yeah.
and it's 100% better pattern recognition than a human being is. So the thing is, dude,
Yeah.
these are small ways, right? So GPT is like at the core workflow. So in the research part, we do that. To ideate concepts, we do that. Even to
Hmm.
ideate hooks, right? Like
Hmm.
typically how we start today is we ask GPT to come up with crazy visuals first. It has a
Yeah.
DALI integration now, so it comes up with
Yeah.
images, right? We
Okay.
use that to come up with other ideas based on that,
That's
right? Like I'll
interesting.
give you like one example, which is so like the example of Fredo in their pillow, right? A
Hmm.
common prompt statement is customers have back pain, so they buy this pillow, right?
Hmm.
So we were like, okay, we know one thing that works really well is intensifying the problem, which is if
Hmm.
you have back pain, it should make it seem like you have the worst pain in the world. It's
Yeah.
also like a good hook. Dude,
Hmm.
GPT came up with this concept which we did, which worked well. Was we
Hmm.
made an ad where a girl is lying down on her, like she's sleeping on her stomach, on her
Yeah.
back. A tractor goes over her back.
Okay.
The
All right.
editing was done by GPT also. So
That's
we use
nice.
like Premiere Pro, Generator Fill, and all to get that done, right?
Hmm.
See, the visual is crazy. Like we're just intense with the thing of back pain, right? So our
Hmm.
editors are also using GPT and being super creative over there to come up with ideas, right?
That's.
So, dude, it's honestly integrated in all of our process over there.
Hmm.
GPT very much so. Like we use Bard also, honestly, the same thing, right? Apart
Yeah.
from the other tools, I think in our line of work, we definitely use a tool called Foreplay a lot, right?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
Foreplay, like another tool that we such even is a tool called AdNova. So
Okay.
basically, what it does in a nutshell is it helps you save ads, right? So
Okay.
we do a lot of research on TikTok and on Instagram and all as well.
Hmm.
Today, what a lot of people do is they'll just save a link, they'll copy the link and they'll put it on a Google Sheet.
Yeah.
Super messy, super unclear. You don't really know what happened. Like
Yeah.
a tool like AdNova, what it basically does is you can save the ad to their like backend software. So it
Okay.
saves forever. So
Hmm.
even if the brand shuts down the ad, you get to see it over there. But what's
Hmm.
really cool is that you can start understanding patterns. So for
Okay.
example, every client, what we do is we save a lot of ads, right? We
Hmm.
see what kind of content, let's say good brands are doing, let's say even in the US, to see,
Hmm.
let's say I'll give you like an example. There's a brand called the Perfect Jean in the US. So
Okay.
these guys basically make really comfortable jeans, chinos, that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
There's one hook, dude, I've seen them do at least 100 times, which is they basically have stretchable jeans. So
Yeah.
there's this hook where the guy is talking to the camera, he pulls out an entire milk jug from
Uh-huh.
his pants. Like
Okay.
literally from his pants, he pulls it out. He's
Yeah.
trying to show that the jeans are super stretchy. You didn't even see it over there, right?
Hmm.
It's a weird hook. See, like when I told it now, you're like, huh, okay, some
Hmm.
pattern interrupt happened, right? See,
Yeah.
now the fact that they're doing it 10, 15 times, we saw when we saved it, we're like,
Yeah.
hey, there's something over here. So now we
Yeah.
can recreate that for our client also, or take another version of it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
a tool like AdNova and all is like definitely something that we use a lot in a creative strategist role.
Hmm. Yeah, I think what you said, like absolutely, it's so true. Like nowadays, we also have these different tools like Claude and all. So what we're doing is we're also trying to go out there, trying to analyze, like putting in URLs of different
Yeah,
brands and trying to just take out their copies or their USPs
absolutely. Yeah.
and trying to infuse things from there itself. I
Right.
think one more tool, if people really want to get into AI, Bardeen is very good. So what you can do is you can tell Bardeen to do tasks for you. It's like your GPT agent per
Yeah.
se, right? So that's also one more,
Right.
tool that we have been using very frequently.
There's a lot
That's
of tools,
crazy.
bro. There's a
Yeah,
lot of tools. Like I feel
um,
like I'm getting FOMO because I feel like I don't know enough tools yet, and I feel
yeah.
like or the problem I have, there's definitely a tool for it. It's just I haven't found it yet. So yeah.
Hmm. True, true, true. So true, man. I think we have covered a lot in terms of like creatives and D2C strategies and all of that.
Right.
I think people will definitely pay more attention if they watch this in terms of creatives, right? I'm a big proponent of creatives as well. Like all the brands
Awesome.
that
Yeah.
we've scaled over the last year, all of them have actually been about regarding content. It's always been content which has been the edge which we have had, right?
Right.
I'll give you an example. Like, we're working with this men's skincare brand, and the
Okay.
founder is a content creator, right?
Awesome.
And the best thing is that since he is a content creator himself, it was so easy to test out so many creators every single
Right.
week that it just helped us scale, from like 15, 20K to almost,
Awesome.
crore and a half, right? So
Crazy, dude.
that's
Yeah.
that is a crazy scale that we got. So, talking more, elaborating more on content, just before we start the podcast, you mentioned that you want to get into content as well, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what would you say, like, how important has it become today to for founders also to be involved in this process of creating content? Should they also create a personal brand? Should they be involved in the brand's content? So, can you talk a little bit about that?
For sure, dude. A short answer to your question is yes. I'll tell you the long answer, which is in especially for today's world, right? That's the thing, which is I like Raj Shamani. He said this quote once, which is stop being a consumer, be a producer, right? Most of us, let's say we go to LinkedIn, we are reading people's posts, we are commenting on all the lead magnets, right? Whatever the word is, boom, we are
Yeah,
commenting all this stuff, right? The thing is, see, like in today's world, it is let's say even if you talk about agency space, there's so much people. Let's say even Facebook ad,
yeah,
there's so many Facebook ad agencies, right? In a world where there's so much like noise, you want to stand out, you want to get attention, and dude, attention is the new oil, right? Like, which is the more attention and eyeballs your agency has, it'll help you guys get more leads, right? So I think one is enough. If you're a founder today, you have to do it. Like if you look at Shantanu
yeah,
from Bobby Shaving Company, right? Like I'm consuming his content because I'm into marketing, I'm into
yeah,
business and all that stuff, right? Like I'm not really consuming content about let's say why the razor works. But now tomorrow when I want to buy a new razor, guess
yeah,
what comes top of mind? I'll be like, hey, I never tried Bombay Shaving Company, let me do it. Simple example, right? But I think, see, at core, where I think the crux of it is this, right? Anybody, whether you're a DTC founder, like you work in marketing and all as well, you have to build content because that helps you build an audience. That audience, dude, is the biggest leverage which you have, right? I'll give you like an example. If you're a marketer and you like, I've
yeah,
been doing this myself also. Like I post content,
yeah,
come on podcasts like this, right? So what happens now is, dude, that let's say this piece of content lies on the internet forever, right? Like I'm sleeping today,
yeah,
maybe somebody is watching it, right? That's getting me more eyeballs. Since some content I put out, we've been able
yeah,
to hire better people. More people are interested to work with us, and a company, the core of scaling it
yeah,
is just having a great team. See, but if I have content, I'm able to attract a great team. One, I'm posting a lot of content, let's say about the nature of work that we do. Clients seeing it. Brands are going, like, hey, that's really interesting. I need to do this for my brand. I'm
yeah,
getting leads through that. Like whatever it is, right? So one is that reputation really helps you scale on a larger end. So I think like especially today, and I think even to
yeah,
add on to the content thing, I'm sure a lot of people watching this might say like, okay, it makes sense, but I can't post it because I'm just starting out or
yeah,
I'm not like an expert. So here's the thing: an expert is just somebody who knows more about a
yeah,
topic than another person, right? So instead of let's say telling that I am an expert, I've done this, instead honestly share
yeah,
the journey of your learning. Let's say if you're getting into creative or whatever service, right? As you're studying it more through content online, share that learning over there, right? You can do that also. And again, there are people who don't mind that. They don't mind as long
yeah,
as they learn from you, right? You don't have to come off and say, I've done a 10 million UGC ads. Here's my
yeah,
feedback. Instead, say, hey, I was studying, example, Savannah Sanchez video, and
yeah,
here's three things that I liked. So it's almost like she is, let's say, the expert, the credible person,
yeah,
and you're sharing your learning. That's an easy way to do it. But does it help you build an audience? What you do with that audience, dude, is honestly endless. So I'm super bullish on it, and yeah,
yeah.
like I'm also focusing a lot 2024 on
Okay,
building my
okay,
audience.
that's
So yeah,
crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, I think one of like everybody who's probably going to watch this, they know about Shark Tank, right? Like we were discussing about Shark Tank like before the
right,
podcast. I think
right,
even like I'm no Jordan Peterson. I don't know what happens with my psychology, but like
absolutely,
right now we have the Zomato founder Dipinder Goyal is there. I hope I'm not messing up his name,
yeah,
right? But even seeing him just on TV, now my natural reaction if I have to order food today because he's on top of my mind, I will go and order from Zomato,
Zomato,
right?
exactly,
Same way with be it
exactly,
Boat, be it even like Mama, the founder was there on Shark Tank. I think now she got listed on
right,
NSE, right? She got listed on the stock market.
yeah,
I'm damn sure like the people invested because they saw her like being the face of the brand on Mama Earth, right?
exactly,
And it added like I don't know
right,
tens of thousands of crores to their valuation. So
right,
one thing else that I want to elaborate on, or rather not even elaborate, I want discuss with you is that you put out a lot of content on LinkedIn, and I've seen that even
Right.
people like Faisal, who was on a podcast last week, he's putting out a lot of content, and people really resonate with your personal stories, right? And your true
Right.
personality. And I've seen that you do that also. You're putting
Right.
yourself out there, which is obviously, I would say, pretty daunting for a lot of people. But you still take that step, and I'm sure it has
Right.
given you a lot of leads from there itself, right? To sort of put it. So,
For sure.
like, what would you say has been your way of acquiring clients apart from putting out LinkedIn stories? This is especially for
Okay.
people who are into the agency space and they want to know the process of an agency owner like you of acquiring clients.
For sure. Absolutely, dude. So, I mean, I'll tell you for me personally, right? Like, I have done zero outreach for Stole
Okay.
Stop. Like, I have done zero cold emailing, zero even LinkedIn
Okay.
DMing, nothing, right? So, I'll tell you, like, my core philosophy has always been is that if you have a really good service and you deliver good results for your clients, they will be happy and they will
Mhm.
pitch you to other people. That's at least the
Yeah.
theory of it, right? I was always focused on just that, dude. Like every client, like under
Mhm.
promise, over deliver. Do really good work with them. They'll refer to other people. So fundamentally, we have grown this entire team has just been through referrals because the work's been really good. But like I said, apart from LinkedIn, so initially when we just started off, for sure, LinkedIn content was how we got people
Yeah.
into the funnel. I did sales calls with them myself, and
Mhm.
we pushed them in the agency. So I think I do that a lot, and I also I think in an agency space, right? You're in the
Yeah.
people business, dude. Like your client is a person, right? Have a good relationship with them, talking to them, right? Like more often than not, the biggest clients that we've got were referred to
Mhm.
by our other big clients. They know people in the game, right? And that's like we build a good relationship with them, we talk to them, help them. Like I have some clients who I speak to about outside work hours,
Mhm.
about non-work stuff. Like example, we'll just have a chat one day about generally where do you think
Yeah.
D2C is going in India, right? But we are building a relationship and stuff, right? And that's what I've seen has been a huge ROI for us, right? And I think apart from that, like a small thing which I guess even I've seen work really well is
Mhm.
honestly group chats, dude. Like there are so many communities and group chats on on WhatsApp, sorry, that
Yeah.
people create, right? So like I'm just active in some I see over there, but sometimes I see people like talking about problems that they have. If I have an opinion, I
Yeah.
share my opinion over there. But like I've seen like even there, like a founder posted about how they were struggling with content. I just shared some ideas. I got like 10 people message me
Yeah.
after that, right? Like they were like, oh shit, this was a great insight. Oh,
Yeah.
can I pick your brain more? And actually two of them ended
Yeah.
up becoming clients
Yeah.
also, right? So I think that's like a way which was also fairly
I
underutilized,
think
but yeah.
people really undermine providing a lot of value, immense value first, before the ask. Like
Right.
Alex Ramosi says that always delay the ask, right? And I think obviously
For
you're
sure,
going on a
yeah.
sales call as well. It even applies in that 1 hour sales call, right? Really trying to understand, really
Right.
trying to genuinely provide value, and obviously once those guys get
Right.
converted for the long term as well, going outside of your D2C UGC videos and just giving them general tips as well. I think it
Right.
goes a really long way. It shows your expertise, it shows your confidence, and then obviously it builds a lot of
Right.
good repo as well, right? I think that's really crucial.
100%. Yeah.
Apart from that, like Vidhu, like all businesses, like a lot of people come to me and they are always like, hey, we are facing this problem, we are facing that problem, this is the operational problem that we are facing, what software should we use? So I want to know from you, like, since you're running like two agencies right now, what are the kind of operational
Mhm.
softwares that you're using? What kind of operational things are you using apart from like your chat GPT and all of that? And how do you, basically
Mhm.
free up your time by delegating and automating through these tools?
Right. So, to answer your question about, let's say, operational things that we're doing, see, honestly, we don't have
Okay.
a heavy tech stack, dude. I'm just a G Suite guy. Like, I use Google Calendar to plan my day.
Okay.
It's free. G Suite email, the entire team is on that. The main tool that we use is we use Slack for communication, right? So, the entire team is on Slack. We have multiple channels for every client. So, all the comms
Okay.
are in one core place. Like, that's
Okay.
something that we do a lot of. I think, let's say you asked a question, which is like, how do you solve these
Yeah.
operational problems, free up your time, and all that stuff, right? I think, honestly it's that's just core problem solving, which is, let's say, I'm very intentional with my time, right? So for example, I plan my day in the morning, block everything in advance, the calendar, what
Yeah.
I'm doing, I'm very aware. But I also do like a review where I check, okay, let's say for example this week I
Mhm.
was in so many meetings, was it
Mhm.
necessary over there,
Okay.
right? And also, for example, if I feel there's a problem which I know how to solve, I
Yeah.
create a process for it, then I give it to the team saying, hey, here's how
Mhm.
you do it going forward, right? So I think if you're a founder, right, and I've done this mistake a lot too, which is I end up wanting to solve all the
Mhm.
problems myself, though nobody is
Yeah.
better than me complex, right? It might be true, but the reality is you'll never scale a
Mhm.
company like that, right? You have to eventually get
Yeah.
really good people involved. So the approach that I take, which is I It's called system thinking, right? You create a system, you have the team follow that, and you wait for the feedback to come out. Let's say I created a process on how the team should write a script. I'm stepping away. Let the team do the process. Let me see the end result came out of it, and I will see my
Yeah.
feedback over there and iterate on the
Yeah.
system. But eventually, doing that is how you create really good systems, right? So something that I do for this is like I like write a little bit about it. Like I journal about the problem that I have, what solutions could be, and I consume a lot of information about it. So like I understand that
Yeah.
a lot more deeper, get new ideas. Like I said, ideas and ideas out, right? Like that's how I look at solving these kind of problems.
That's great, man. That's great. So again, just as a follow question, people would also be curious of, starting their own
Mhm.
agencies after listening to this, right? So if you had to rebuild an
Right.
agency or you had to do something different in your agency, how would you do it in like 2024?
Fair enough, dude. So I think there's two ways to look at it, right? One is you can be really good at business or you can have a good business, right? So I'll tell you what I mean by the latter is one is you can be a phenomenal operator, you know how to scale teams and all that stuff, which is the being good at business. Or having a good business basically means you're solving a good problem and you have a great solution for it, and there's a good market for it. You want to be in the latter. You can be phenomenal at business, but the reality is somebody who's just in a better business than
Yeah.
you will scale better. So to your question about if I had to do an agency, right? First thing is agencies at core are just a group of people who are experts who solve a problem
Yeah.
a client has. What problem you want to solve is up to you to choose. That's
Yeah.
where you have freedom, right? Even if whichever problem you choose, be the best at solving it. So example, the problem I've taken is I believe in India brands don't have good ad content, which is not getting them sales. I took that problem. I'm dedicating 5 hours every day to just solve this
Yeah.
problem, learning it, getting better and all that stuff, right? So on the back of that, we built an agency to scale that. Now, if somebody is starting out fresh, right, one thing I would say is choose a really good problem to solve. What I mean by that is if there's less competition, great, right? If there's, let's say, more market to capture. For example, AI is super
Yeah.
huge in today's space, right? But there is so much automations that can be done in AI, right? Which a lot of people just don't know how to do. Like even me, for example, right? I know AI is huge and I know my entire process right now, I can do a
Yeah.
lot more with AI. But if I have an AI expert or an AI agency for that matter, right? Who go like, hey, you know what? I'll be the AI expert. I learn all the tools that is there, the automations, Zapier flows,
Yeah.
etc., 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 and I help them do it for your agency. So I can help you guys scale, save more time, save more
Yeah.
money, whatever it is, dude.
Yeah.
I'm game. So that's just an example of a problem where I feel like not enough people are solving. At least I haven't
Yeah.
been exposed to them, right? So I would start looking at a good problem that way, go deeper to the solution. And how is just
Yeah.
content, dude? Like go to YouTube, watch the first 5 pages of AI automation content, right? I'm pretty sure after that, if you spend 20 hours, you
Yeah.
will know a lot of stuff, right? Use that and build a team and stuff around it to help
I
you
think
scale that
again,
further,
just
right? I
just
think
just
that's the core
quoting
I'd look at
Alex
it.
Ramosi again, I think he said on some podcast that it takes you 20 hours to get good at something. So just consume like
Yeah,
20 good podcasts from or 20 good pieces of YouTube content from good people
absolutely.
in
Yeah,
this space, and I think you're golden. And just elaborating on that, right? I think from one more lesson that people can learn is that you will have to put in the reps. Okay, so what I mean by that is that you can't
100%.
just
Yeah,
randomly, like, for example, if you hadn't worked in that agency for whatever brief period you had, you couldn't actually get a taste of, okay, what are the problems being faced by these people, or these are different kind of solutions I can
right,
provide to people. So I think most people who get
right.
into like the agency, freelancing, drop shipping, they just want to jump the gun without trying to get a good taste of
Yeah,
everything. And then obviously you can obviously pivot always, right? Like this will happen so many times even in
right.
Shark Tank, right? Like these sharks, they give some sort of an idea. Like often I think it was that Flathead's founder, he literally shut down his business, right?
Yeah,
Because he realized that,
yeah,
okay, probably the business model, like what you said, right? Business was probably not that good,
right,
right? He might be a good founder, but the business isn't that good. So I
right.
think that's something that people should take away
Exactly.
from
Yeah.
that. And
I'll add on to just one thing you said, dude, which is that like I think what a lot of people don't realize is, let's say, for example, somebody might watch this podcast and be like, shit, UGC is a big space, let me get
yeah,
into it, right? So that's what is called
yeah,
uninformed optimism, which is like, and everybody starts on that stage where they go like, oh shit, like, so the grass is always
yes,
greener on the other side. You'll always look at something else, be like, hey, dude, that is so sexy, that's
yeah,
really cool, let me do that. But the reality is you're uninformed. What happens next is it's called informed pessimism. You start doing it, you'll be like,
yeah,
oh shit, this is really tough, right? I'll give you like an example of LinkedIn ghostwriting. Maybe like 6 7 months ago that was this
yeah,
very hot thing, right? Again, I might see it from afar and be like, dude, shit, this industry is popping off, right? I see a lot of people wanting the service. Uninformed optimism, I get into it to be like, oh fuck, there are a
yeah,
lot of people, there are a lot of vendors, they're all undercutting each other. That's
yeah,
uninformed pessimism. That's when most people quit. You know what happens then? They go back to uninformed optimism. UGC ads, let me get into that. Same thing, dude. Like you don't know the story. So another phrase which I wanted, like at least maybe people to think about is the struggle is guaranteed. The success is not. No matter what you do, you will have to struggle. Like you said, you'll have to put the reps. The success
Yeah.
absolutely not guaranteed. But the people who really do it in any space in whichever industry, right? Just one thing you notice, who they just played the game for so long. Like even see UGC, I played the game through uninformed optimism, through
Yeah.
informed pessimism. Now I've reached a state of informed optimism because I'm like, hey, I know exactly how to scale this now. I've done the reps, like you said, right? But most people quit at that time, dude. And obviously, like good things
True,
take time,
true,
right?
true,
So
true,
yeah.
man. I think you have already answered my next question, which is like, what is the one final piece of advice you would like to give people? But again, you can elaborate. Do you have
Right.
anything else which you would want to tell people that, okay, this is what you need to do
Yeah,
to
dude.
sort of make it in 2024, regardless of, if you want to be an agency owner or a freelancer.
Right, dude. I think like I'll boil it down to this core framework, right? Which is let's say this is who you are today and this is who you want to be. Let's maybe call it a 10-year goal, a 5-year goal, whatever timeline, right? So the thing is, dude, there is three core things it boils down to, which is a lot of people
Yeah.
have desire. Let's say, for example, a lot of people want to have six packs. Desire is there for a lot of people, right? I want to be this, I want to be that. I want to run a massive agency. I want to do 10 crores plus in the agency. People have desire, right? Now, here's the thing, which is if you have that desire
Yeah.
and is really strong, the reason why people don't achieve it or the gap is you don't know the knowledge and actions. So I'll tell you what I mean by that, which is let's say you want to build an agency that is 1 crore a month in revenue. Now the reality is, have you done it today? If the answer is no, means you do not know how to do it. That is knowledge which you can always learn. You can learn by talking to people, right? So something which I've done, which is an amazing growth hack, is I have a great mentor named Aman who runs an
Okay.
agency called Insane Marketers. So he runs a massive agency. Just by sitting with him and seeing the way he thinks, we discuss a lot of stuff together now. I think I 2x'd my growth just because of that,
Yeah.
right? So that was knowledge. Plus, apart from that, I am studying agency too. I'm studying service businesses. Like you said, Hormozy has a lot of content about services, how to scale,
Yeah.
offers, all this stuff, right? That is knowledge. Now I feel like I have the knowledge. The next
Yeah.
biggest thing is actions. This is what everybody, I'll tell you, everybody knows how to get fit, right? Eat less food, move more.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it. But nobody will take the action. So that's the thing which people need to focus on is the right actions, right? So let's say, like even if it's coming to building content on LinkedIn, what's the right kind of content to build on? Studying people, like you said, Faisal, study the content that he does, reverse engineer that, create it for yourself, right? These are things which everybody can do. And honestly, you can honestly be whoever you want to be, right? Like I said, the end part over here, and you can be that person. You have to have the desire, you have to learn the knowledge, and you have to put in the actions, right? If you just break down your goal into
Yeah.
those three things, right, and maybe evaluate it where you're at, solve it, dude. If you feel like you don't have the knowledge,
Yeah.
hey, solvable, right? If you feel like, hey, I'm not taking the actions, you know what to do. Get shit
I
done.
would say, Vidhu, like this is one of those conversations which I have personally taken away a lot from. Why? Because your way of thinking, like
Awesome. Yeah.
my thinking is very jumbled up. Okay, I think you have a more
Fair.
systematic way of
Okay.
thinking because I am amongst those people
Right.
who do tend to chase different things, every 6 months, 7 months. And
Right.
I think what you have done very well is like focusing like really deeply into what you want to do. And I think that's
Right.
something which people should also learn. Don't take my example, take Vidhu's example of systematic thinking, and
Fair. Yeah.
just drilling down into one thing. Especially if you're passionate about it, right? Like you should go really deep down into it, try to really
Right.
be an expert. So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, man.
Yep.
So I
Absolutely.
think I think we're ready for our rapid fire round. I hope you are with.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
So
Yeah.
what is your favorite book, and what is one book you
Go
would
for it.
recommend everybody read?
Top of my mind, 100 million offers
Okay.
Alex Hormozy.
And why would you recommend people read it?
Yeah. Uh, Two things. One is the way that he's written the book is it's so foundational. Like he's done the research. He took this word offer. He went. I think he spent 2 years writing this book. Right. That level of depth is what you need to be a 100 million CEO or what a success you want in life. Right. And also the information is so foundational, dude. Like he's explained it in 100 million offers to make it more as an attractive title. But the foundation is, dude. This is why people buy. So I think that's a great book. Anybody who's a marketer or in business, I think you have to read that
Absolutely.
book.
What about one? Which is your favorite movie, and what is one movie you would recommend everybody watch?
Oh wow. My favorite movie would be
Interstellar.
Interstellar,
Okay.
right? So why I would recommend watching it, dude, is because I feel like a lot of times we're in our own small world of like LinkedIn posting, content agency, working with
Yeah.
clients and all that stuff, right? But dude, the world is huge. Like, I mean, we are just a small speck of dust in the grand universe. And I think Interstellar is a great movie in reminding us of that. So that's a movie that I
Got
like
it.
a lot. Yeah.
And I would say, what would be like an advice for your younger self, which you would want to give your younger self if you could travel back in time?
Oh, advice for my younger self. Uh, I think the advice for my younger self would be is like would be like micro speed but macro patience. So that's a quote from Gary Vee, which is do stuff like with speed, urgency, and in like fast. Like I even talk fast, right? But do stuff fast in today's short term, but delayed gratification to get results back. Like quick stories, like when I started
Yeah.
Underdog, my first agency, I was in crazy micro speed, but I was just like I felt like I had good knowledge, but didn't reflect on my bank account. I just needed patience. It needed time. You need compounding to kick in. And slowly after time is when I saw things get better. Like even now as a founder or a CEO, I know I'm like way better than how I was back then, right? Good things take time. So that's something which you can try to make time a bit shorter, sure, by crazier speed. But yeah, but that doesn't mean you don't operate
Yeah.
fast in the today.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So yeah.
And say if you had any one superpower, what would that superpower look like for you?
Okay.
Any superpower at all?
Oh, I think the superpower I'd want to have is to have all the information in the world, bro. I really believe knowledge is power. If I could have all information accessible like a GPT in one click, right, I
Bro,
would
go
be a
go for
trillionaire,
Neuralink. I think
right?
Elon Musk has already released it
I
yesterday,
for sure will,
and
dude.
you
I
need to
for
get
sure
an
will.
implant, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I would be a beta tester also, dude. I don't mind. I don't mind being the lab rat for it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. And what would you say is that, that one piece of advice that changed your life? It can be through a person, it can be through a book, it can be through a movie. So any that one piece of, advice or that one quote that changed your life.
I would say, dude, the one piece of advice, or like I would say more of it's a concept that changed my life, is the concept of a growth mindset. So I learned this from Tom Bilyeu. So Tom Bilyeu, check him out on YouTube. He is the founder of like Impact Theory, phenomenal podcast. He's also he exited his business, but he ran $1 billion company called Quest Nutrition. So it's not like he's
Yeah.
just a podcaster, right? So he explained his concept of growth mindset, especially when I had the depression phase that changed my life. Why is because he made me realize that like one is you can be whoever you want to be, right? Let's say a lot of people operate with a fixed mindset, which is they feel like this is who I am,
Yeah.
I can't do this, dude. If anybody, let's say, listen to this newbie when I was a kid, dude, like in my entire extended family, nobody runs a business, right? Like I 100% believe entrepreneurs are not born, they're made, right? And I would say I'm an example of that. Like, dude, the word entrepreneur sounded so like alien to me. Like nobody runs a business. Like say in my mom, dad, and my brother are all engineers, right? So how does a kid who grew up in that background, never grew up in business,
Yeah.
never thinks about money and all that stuff, become a business owner, right? It's just this thing, dude. It's growth mindset, which I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I can learn, I can do this, I can be who I want to be, right? I just had to again, like I said, knowledge and actions. But the core crux of me having that belief, which is how the desire started, was because of Tom Bilyeu. Like he honestly, I luckily got to speak to him once also, but he is the one who made me understand that I can be this person. Because in his
Yeah.
story as well, he was just a random copywriter who worked in this company, and now he like exited $1 billion company. He's creating a phenomenal business impact
Yeah.
theory and all that stuff, right? It's just mindset, bro. So I think it starts with mindset, and if you aren't familiar with it, there's a book called
Okay.
Mindset by Carol Dweck, where she talks about growth mindset first. She's credited to creating this. I think that's a great foundational core start anybody can
Amazing.
do.
Amazing.
So yeah,
So, Vidhu, it's been a phenomenal conversation. I think I've enjoyed myself thoroughly. I hope
awesome. Yeah,
you have had a good time too. Yeah.
likewise, bro.
And so,
Yeah,
for anybody who's curious to, reach out to Vidhu, I'll be putting in all his links down in the, comment section. You can reach out to him, have a chat, go through his LinkedIn post. You can find a lot of inspiration there. And
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
it's great talking to you, Vidhu. And I want to do this podcast, another round two of this very, very soon. Yeah. All right.
for sure, dude.
Thanks, Vidhu.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, dude. Yeah.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Just a quick reminder, you can actually join our exclusive community of digital business owners by clicking the first link in the description. Get access to like minded folks and masterclasses exclusively recorded by our team.